Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Wanted to do a small follow-up video to the video I released yesterday about the Exo Designs carbon bridge that I used on my 870. And someone pointed out in the comments, and they were correct. They said, hey, your bridge is on the top, should be on the bottom. And that is correct if you're using the stock ball cups. So let's get to that, and I'll show you two different setups on my 91 Works as well as my 870C. However, first of all, you may notice a change. Oh, these sweet white Yokomo wheels that go fast sent out and got to my door. I think I ordered these on Saturday. They arrived yesterday. And here we are. Got rid of the pink. Looks good. So on my video yesterday, someone noted, and they are correct. The reason I mounted this to the top instead of the bottom is I'm using non-standard Yokomo ball ends and tie. The tie rods are titanium, doesn't matter. I went to a ball stud, right? Because I want to be able to just get ball studs at the hobby store. They're not going to have Riri Yokomo 870C parts. So instead of mounting the rack to the bottom, I mounted it at the top. I clearance the rack slightly so it doesn't hit the front diff, which it doesn't. Still has a couple, about a millimeter or so clearance from the upper bulkhead, so it's not going to hit that. But the most important thing is it keeps it out of the way of the belt by a good chunk. So I don't have a chance of this belt moving around and accidentally hitting this and getting cut or losing some teeth on the belt. So that's why I did it on my on my Yokomo 91 Works, because it's a different setup than the stock setup. However, if you are on the stock setup, yes, you do want to mount that to the bottom. But on this one, that's a custom build and a runner. We're going to leave it like this and see how it works. So, like I said, I just had to clearance that slightly so it doesn't hit on the diff pulley. But it was pretty minimal. It's not going to affect that really at all. So that's the Yokomo 91 Works. Now, let's show you the 870C. And you guys have seen this on the channel before. This is my 870C runner that I've been running at more in the non-vintage class because they don't have a vintage class, but I don't care. I run my toy cars in whatever class is there. So running a Ridi 17.5 motor in there, and this car's been great. Now this one uses the stock Yokomo ball ends, right? So they're not threaded or anything like that. So what we did on here is, again, we have our Yeah Racing steering. The bridge is mounted to the very bottom of our steering rack, just like in Exo's instructions. The long screw goes all the way up, goes through our ball end, and then it's secured with a nut on the top. Now, there's I believe two disadvantages to this, but it'll probably work, and we'll see, because I'm going to run it this way. First of all, it is hard to see, but the nut, I mean, that thing barely squeaks under that bulkhead. So I am going to shave this bulkhead a little bit with my Dremel just to clearance that out slightly. So that's kind of the first thing that sucks, is that is super, super close. I wish they would give you a screw that was a little bit lower with a low profile lock nut. But it's easy to clearance that bulkhead cap, so I guess not a big deal. And that's the same on both sides, except this side's actually has a little bit of clearance, actually. I mean, I wouldn't mind that. That's a good millimeter in there. So not a big deal. The only thing I see is if you mount this and you mount it on the bottom, like it's shown on Exo's website, it does get fairly close to this belt. And if there's any undulation in this belt, it has a good chance of getting in that rack, especially if you're at full lock and applying power. You could see that, it is tight on there. So it all depends, like, I guess, on the setup of your car and how you want to run it. But we're going to try both ways. So we're going to try the conventional way and use it on our Yokomo 870C. And like I said, there's clearance. There's about 1 millimeter of clearance at full lock in there. And then at neutral or we go straight forward, there's about 1.5 millimeters, 2 millimeters in there. So this is our runner. I will be running this on Saturday at Moore. So we will run this and see how well that works. But we did complete that modification. And like I said, two of the same setups, a little bit different steering setup. And it works on both. You can run it on the top or the bottom. However you want. Go fish, take your pick, whatever. So we're running the standard setup on our 870C, and then we're running kind of the non-standard setup on our Yokomo 91 Works. And I feel like they will both work just fine. I do kind of prefer the Yokomo 91 Works for those two reasons. A, I don't have to clearance anything. There's plenty of space on each side. This is all standard stuff. The rack, even though it is up higher, it is well out of the way of the belt. And just clearancing it very slightly on the one edge, which isn't going to affect any of the strength. I feel that's like the more advantageous setup, I guess. I mean, in theory, you could mount this to the bottom. And what you could do is if you wanted to run a ball stud, this is an 8 millimeter. You could probably get a 12 millimeter and get a nut on the bottom of this to secure it. But the Racing is threaded anyway with Loctite, so I prefer the setup. I think it's cleaner. There's less parts in there, and it's going to work just fine. So I am going to try it, and we'll see. Maybe it won't work, and if it doesn't work, I'll let you know. But both those setups are, like I said, same steering concept, just different setups. I thought I had the servo horn. I was going to use the Protex, but I got to offset them, so I do got to go pick up a B74 servo horn. I'll do that when I'm at Moore on Saturday, and a couple other things, and then we'll be dumping the electronics. I plan to dump them in here on Sunday. Man, that is plush, guys. Woo! Maybe pick up a longer screw and cut it down. Maybe I can do that to get it nice and flush like the 870, but the 870 is set up and ready to go. But I wanted to show you guys on the 870. So I've been running the standard Racing rack in that thing for four race meets, and I never really paid attention to it until someone mentioned on the forum about, I guess, the deflection coming from their rack. So this is the rack I took out, and there's a couple things on this. It's bent up. There's a good bow in here that you can see. The other thing is you can see this is kinked up a good little bit as well. So I got a good amount of deflection in a couple, like not only in this axis with this, but also bowed up here. So the other components are fine, and I guess this kind of has me hesitating to say, if you're gonna be a serious runner, you almost have to do this upgrade. Like I said, this was after 4 races, which four races per night. That's 16 total 5-minute races on this, and I guess I'm lucky it lasted that long, because that's some pretty good. That's pretty good bend in that thing. So if you are planning on running your Yokomo 870C or your 91 Works, I still would not hesitate to buy the Racing stuff for the price. I haven't had an issue with the hubs on my 870 or anything like that. That's really the only issue I've had, and thank God someone mentioned it on the forums, or I don't know if I ever would have saw it, because that is something that's, it's under the rack there. It is hard to see. But all the other components seem fine. So grabbing the EXO carbon bridge, like I said, it also gives you flexibility to mount it in 2 different ways. So in the 91 Works, we mount it, I guess you'd call, above deck. and then below deck on our 870C, and seems to work just fine. So we will run them both and we'll see how it works. And like I said, maybe I'll come back and eat my words in a month or two after I tear up a belt or something happens, but I don't think so. I think these are going to be, either setup's going to be just fine for what we're doing. So I did want to get that out there. And if you are running your 870C or Yokomo 91 works, probably a worthwhile upgrade to do for sure. So other than that, guys, that's a quick update on this video. We'll continue to modify and get these things ready. So I'm going to be modifying the bumpers and getting these things set back here and get ready for Saturday, because we will be heading to Moore to race not only our 870C, but we will be racing our RC10 as well in 21.5 and then our 870C in 17.5 on the Rumble layout. So look for that video probably on Sunday on that one, because I probably won't feel like doing anything on Saturday night, but we'll do a recap, and then we're just going to do a little kind of like Top Gear list. Since this is going to be the same track and same conditions for a couple months, we're just going to run everything on that track and see where it's at. So, and then the other thing I wanted to point out is some guys were talking about shock setup. We do run the 13 millimeters on the 91 works. We are running 12 millimeters on our 870C. So there is a little disparity there, but it's 1 millimeter. And like I said, I don't think it'll be a huge deal. But man, the Kashima shocks on this are sweet. But I know guys are looking for 12 millimeter shocks. Guys, and these are readily available. I know there's been some other channels out there that are like, oh, I can't find 12 millimeter shocks. I ordered the goddamn wrong 12 millimeter shocks. So they're easy to find out there. Now, you may not be able to find the whole kit. You may have to buy the bodies and stuff separately, but all that stuff's out there. You know, all the X-rings internals are the same between 12 and 13 millimeter. The shafts are the same. The bottom cups are the same on there, so those are shared. But yeah, there we go. That's it for the update, and look for the next one tomorrow. Thanks.